Right. This is our final session together. This, of course, was a 45-minute talk in Vegas. You could tell it was 45 minutes, right? And everything that we have been talking about is about feeling. How do you get your readers to feel? You are developing a relatable character who has a misbelief that they are going to overcome, or if you're in horror or tragedy, not overcome. So remember, there's more than one way that you can go. You've got this relatable character, and you have got all of this delicious id stuff that you have been working on. Somebody asked about the difference between tropes and id stuff, and all of your tropes should be id heavy. They absolutely should be things that you love, absolutely love. If you aren't filling your books chocker with stuff that you love and that appeals to your senses and that dings all the right buttons for you, that is a universal pleasure for you, you're possibly in the wrong genre. And I've written in a lot of genres, so I know what it's like to write in something that doesn't entirely have your heart. I'm going to tell you that you need to take that id list and you need to match it up to your readership. Because it might all be yummy for you, but if that's all you do with it, you might end up with a passion project. Now, I have nothing against passion project. I love passion projects. But if you want to make a living, I want to make a living. I like having money because money is freedom. It means that I can do the things that I want to do. I can achieve the things I want to achieve. I can feed the dogs. This is all about this being a workable living for me. So you take your id list and you go and you look at your readership, because you've done your comps, right? You know who your readers are. You know who's reading your books because you know who writes the books that are most like yours. And you look at what they are looking for. What do your readers want? Because in the end, the id list has to match up to them. You have to speak to their story. That's what you're doing. You are hitting the bell of their story. Not everything touches all of us the same way because we come at story with different life experiences, with a different framework, and with different misbeliefs. So the things that make me laugh and cry and gasp aren't going to be the same things that do that for you. And neither should they be. I once had a great conversation with one of my very, very dear friends. And I said, oh God, when a guy cries in a movie, it just gets me every time. Because my dad didn't cry. My dad was of a generation where you weren't supposed to cry. And he had a terrible upbringing. The stories I could tell you about his upbringing, brutal, brutal stories. And he was of a generation where boys don't cry. And so for me, a man crying was like, oh no, terrible, terrible things going to happen. And this friend of mine said, oh, God, my dad cried all the time. I just switch off when it happens. We come to story with our own stories, and your job as the writer is to hit the bell of their story. So I tried to come up with some examples of how you can hit that feeling bell. And when I was looking through examples, because I knew I wanted to give you some examples, my wife came out and said, you okay? I said, I'm just crying. And she said, good tears? I'm like, yeah, they're good tears. So you're just going to have to bear with me because I'm going to cry my way through these because they hit that place where I live. And I will tell you why they hit that place and what it is when you're looking for the dominant feeling for your novel and then breaking that down into the feeling for the chapter, the feeling for the scene, the feeling for the character and what they are going through. I lost my thread. I'm not starting again. I'm sorry. I've already started again 4 times. I'm so tired. I barely know my own name. It's sort of Kate-ish. All right. So I actually believe that it is a good thing as a writer, as an artist. Sorry, Josie. I call them artists. To remain open and vulnerable and to be able to feel things and to feel them deeply. I do not think that you should toughen up. I don't think that that's a great way to be an artist. So you are just going to have to go on this ride with me. There was a great moment in Mad Men where the main protagonist, played by John Hamm, is selling this projector that has a wheel on the top. If you actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put them all into the comments so that you can see these. You should go and watch these and see why they are so compelling. So he is looking at pictures of his family, and he is talking about advertising, but in fact he's talking about his own life as well. And there's somebody in the room who's going through a divorce who at the end of his presentation leaves the room, runs out of the room, you know, a guy crying, running out of the room. Very, very moving. And what John Hamm says in that presentation when he is talking about advertising is that we are going on this journey back to a place where we feel safe, where we feel loved. And instead of calling the wheel that has got the old pictures in it, the slide pictures in it, they rebrand it the carousel, which is very, very clever, naming that the carousel and linking it to childhood memories and looking at pictures of his wife. It's just a masterful, masterful piece of storytelling. You should absolutely watch that. And they are bringing us into this nostalgic moment. And as we later find out, John Hamm doesn't have a family, the character doesn't have a family and has a very, very checkered past. And that has got lots and lots of layers. When you look back at it, when you learn more about his backstory and you look back at it, it's a really layered piece of storytelling. Wonderful. The next one that I'm going to share with you is the John Lewis adverts. So John Lewis is a British department store. I haven't lived in Britain for a very, very long time, and I barely remember what they sell, but every year they come out with a Christmas advert, and their Christmas adverts, I'm going to cry, their Christmas adverts tell a story. They don't try and sell anything, they tell a story. And this year's begins with a middle-aged man on a skateboard, and he clearly has never skateboarded before, and he falls off, and he tries again, and you see him at the skateboard park. And he goes home and he talks to his wife, and they put the Christmas tree up and they put the decorations up. And eventually he learns how to flip his board and catch it, and he's triumphant. This is a perfect arc. It's a perfect storytelling arc. I'm not going to tell you the payoff because I want you to watch that and tell me what you feel. Now, I don't know. As I said, I don't know what John Lewis sells, but if I ever pass one, I'm going to go in because of the way that it made me feel. And that's what you want with your books. You want your readers to feel a certain way. And that's going to be the question at the end. I've got 3 very, very good looking rocks for my final giveaway. And you are going to tell me what the target feeling was. There's going to be one other question as well. The last one that I want to share with you is the Always ad. Wow. So for some of you, it won't be as hard-hitting because you don't have the same story as me. But, you know, female athletes were not that common, let's say, in my grandmother's generation. And there are stories about, you know, the first time a woman tried to run a marathon, she got chased off the road. It was unseemly. Women didn't do that kind of thing. Now, I've got an additional layer that my mother wanted to run away and join the circus. She was an athlete. I come from, I know you can tell by how honed and buff I am. I come from a family of very athletic people. I have uncles that played not just for the county, but who played rugby for England. So I come from very physical people. But my mother also bullied me around my body. So I never, ever walked into a room with her without her telling me to stand up straight, tuck your tummy, tuck your bottom. Like, there was always a criticism about the way that I carried myself. There was a time once when I was putting a sock on in the living room and I stood on one foot to put my sock on, and she said, "Oh, I didn't know you could balance." So I come to sports with this idea that it's very, very complicated. Although I played hockey competitively and I swam for my school, and in fact I can do it, I just won't. So this Always ad, so Always, female sanitary protection. They were in a meeting, And they knew that there is a certain amount of shame or embarrassment around this product. And then they went and they made this study of what it means to do something like a girl. And I'm going to drop that in the comments as well. And I want you to watch that. And I want you to watch how you feel and tell me how you feel. So we are coming up on 10 minutes. Oh, we just skipped over 10 minutes. So I'm going to sneeze. Oh, can I get through it? Yeah. So we have got 3 questions for 3 very beautiful rocks. What is the target that John Lewis, thank you. The John Lewis ad, what are they wanting you to feel? What are they inviting you to feel in that story? The Always ad, how did that land for you? And then a big open one, can you share a piece of media that moved you and tell us why? Because I want you thinking about how to move your audience, how to make them feel what you want them to feel. People will not come back. If you lecture people, 1, they will forget what you say, and you really can't logic someone out of their base story. So we have stories that make up how we see the world, and you can't logic someone out of their story, but you might be able to feel them out of it, which is why you should always be lovely and encouraging. All right, so I'm probably going to drop to 1 of these per week, and then I will see you next year, I hope, in Vegas. Write lots, make them feel.